Hello, my name is Scott Albers. I'm an attorney in Montana, Great Falls, Montana. I have a Juris Doctorate from 1986 from the University of Missouri in Columbia. I am presenting this video to explain two papers that I've written, one with my son, the premise of which is that economic and social cycles are geometrically based. The idea being that the American economy can be seen in that light. Oken's law is an economics principle in macroeconomics that states that there is a formal and sustained ratio between growth and unemployment. Kondratьev's wave is a different idea that indicates that there is a pattern of social development and economic development in the range of 50 to 60 years, wherein capitalism changes itself in a systematic way. The two papers I have presented argue that Oken's law can be supported by Kondratьev's wave with the understanding that social and economic cycles are geometrically based. They are not purely statistical, but they are geometric characterizations of what is going on. The second paper is called Oken's law as a pi-to-1 ratio, a harmonic trigonometric theory as to why Oken's law works. It was published on the Munich site in 2013. Basically what it claims is that Oken's law, which states the relationship between unemployment and growth, is a geometric one. Oken found that there was about 3 different points of increase that were necessary to bring unemployment down by 1 point. What I have argued in this paper is that it's actually a 1 to pi relationship, and it follows the unit circle. As long as this radius of 1 is understood as being full employment, and pi as understood as growth or GNP, the production of GNP, the relationship between GNP growing and unemployment decreasing must be a 1 to pi relationship. Kondratьev's wave was introduced in the economic literature about 1920s by a Russian named Nikolai Kondratьев, who argued that capitalism was not imploding the way Marx had expected, but rather rejuvenating itself on a period of about every 50 to 60 years. The first paper I've written is entitled, and of course with my son, was entitled On the Mathematic Prediction of Economic and Social Crisis Toward a Harmonic Interpretation of the Kondratьev Wave by Scott Albers and Andrew L. Albers. In that paper we argued that geometrically the golden mean seemed to be regulating economic growth within the United States. The golden mean can be demonstrated or exemplified by a particular geometric construction called the golden rectangle. The golden rectangle is constructed by drawing a square, dividing it in half, taking the hypotenuse of that half, rotating it 90 degrees, and the proportions of this rectangle demonstrate what is meant by the golden mean. Insofar as this segment A is as to B as B is to the entire length of the thing being C. In other words, there's a repetitive or an almost a father-son, son-grandson type of relationship in this particular figure. In the first paper, which is entitled On the Mathematic Prediction of Economic and Social Crises Toward the Harmonic Interpretation of the Kondratьev Wave, my son and I made the argument that you can look quite carefully at the GNP growth cycles of the United States and determine that there's no question that a 14-year period of time is the best focus on which to look at these different forms of data. And that if you add a 14, 14, 14, 14 as a circuit of 56 years, what is quite clear from the data is that it's the golden mean that seems to be the average of all of the data from 1869 to the present. And specifically, the data that we were able to amass over that period of time is that the 1 to 1.6180 relationship does in fact dominate and control the American economy. The reason why we feel confident to present this particular version of economics is that it ties so directly in with an analysis of music, which is extremely ancient and goes all the way back to Pythagoras. What we were able to do in the discussion of gross national product would be to take 2 different years, say 1869, and use that as the denominator of a later year, say 1879. that would be called a 10-year spread between the data. And as we looked at different types of spreads, a 10-year spread, 11-year spread, 12-year spread, up to about an 18-year spread, what we began to realize was that each one of these spreads, as we would create a spreadsheet, would have a high, a low, and an average within that particular set of columns. And that each one of these different spreads would generate different levels of activity mathematically in those different spreadsheets. If you're looking at the difference between this average as it moves up and down heavily versus the average as it remains very, very still, what we found was this, that the 7-year amount of dissonance we might find, that kind of average jumping around, would look something like that. The 8-year more, the 9-year more, the 10-year more, the 11-year more, the 12-year more, the 13-year more, but at the 14, it suddenly dropped down significantly and drastically, followed by the 15-year, which it went straight back up to the high level of distance before, that high level activity, and followed on down such as that pattern. What we were able to locate was that there was a mathematic pattern that's already been described in the literature of what this octave looks like. And basically this acoustic octave demonstrates a very, very clear basis for a 14-year basic part of the American development over 56 years, as then complemented by an entire 56-year pattern. Both of these articles combine to support one another in their geometric claims. In conclusion, the two papers try and present, and I think persuasively present, two things: that the conjugative wave, which is well known, is actually based upon a very strict analogy to musical harmony and a relationship directly with the golden mean, a mathematic proportion of great antiquity, and that can be used as the interpretive basis for Oken's law, which can be demonstrated to show a 1 to pi relationship similar to the unit circle of trigonometry. Anybody who's done mathematic history for a long time will understand immediately that representations are important. In the Great Pyramid, if you have a base of something like that, the relationship between this height to 1/2 the perimeter is the same as 1 to pi. And the relationship between half of this base and that is the same as 1 to phi, or 1 to 1.6180. That would demonstrate, and I think persuasively argue, that the economic and social cycles of the United States are geometrically based rather than statistically based. Thank you very much.